Hi, so welcome back to my channel. This is Salome Rue, and you've come back to building you and your money with Salome Rue. Now, in today's video, we are still on the subject of couples and how they manage their money. And one of the most common topics you will come across or agree with me on is the fact that couples always wonder whether they should have a joint account or they should have separate individual accounts. Now, this is obviously something that will be an individual or couple decision based on certain aspects of what their values are, how well they know each other, and obviously what their financial goals are. Because you'll find that some couples actually have both joint accounts as well as single accounts, and that's done for specific administrative reasons and also for some personal autonomy of some sort. Now, there are no rules or right or wrong aspects about this. And what we're just going to explore in today's video is just really looking at the basic pros and cons of having a joint account versus a separate account as couples. And that can just help us reflect on whether we want to continue doing what we are already doing at the moment, or perhaps make some adjustments that will be suitable to our future plans and what we desire as the best outcome of how we should run our finances. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do like the video, as that will help the algorithm and help my channel start to grow. Now, basics about what the pros are of having joint accounts. I guess the most straightforward one would be the fact that you have transparency between the account holders. So joint accounts give both parties a good view of exactly what is actually going on in terms of transactions, and it's easier to keep track of expenses. And as you'd know, it also enhances an element of teamwork, for you to achieve your financial goals. So you can have joint current account, which is where you have your incomings and outgoings in the same account, or you can also have joint savings accounts, which are specific for one goal, and all you're doing is putting money in and not necessarily taking it out until the purpose of your agreed reason is actually reached. Okay, now you can have both joint current accounts as well as joint savings accounts. It just depends on what fits your circumstances. The other advantage, or the other pro, is the fact that joint accounts come with a lot of convenience when it comes to managing expenses and bills. If you live in the UK, which is where I live, we know that there are so many bills that will have to be paid. I think it's general in most countries in the West, to be honest. Other than just paying for your accommodation, which could be your rent or your mortgage, we've got all these other extra bills. We've got our council taxes, we've got our utility bills, we've got subscriptions. Some people have got car insurance, I guess, home insurance, all sorts of insurances. I can't give you the whole list. And then we've got other expenses as well. Some people, if you're paying school fees, you've got all that as well on top. And other than the food that we need, there is so much more that we have to pay for. And I think managing those bills in joint accounts helps with that convenience and transparency of how things are operated. Now, you will argue that there would also be some cons of having joint accounts. And I guess the most obvious one is, the aspect of control, as to the fact that both of you have got control over what goes in and what goes out. And therefore, if the other party is not very responsible, it could become a very difficult situation to manage, because if someone who's in a joint account ownership takes money out, you can't ask them to put it back legally or anything like that, because you have a joint account. So I guess there's this point of other people also facing financial abuse, because one party can actually prohibit them from accessing funds to say, you shouldn't take money out. So obviously I'm getting into, nitty-gritty of certain issues that could go wrong, but these are just issues that we should be aware of, that other people have experienced. Now, you also have the aspect of privacy, which I guess could still be a big thing for people. Even if you are in a marriage or in a relationship, you probably want to have some kind of personal expenses that are just yours, that you want to manage. And when you have joint accounts, obviously that's not possible. And this is the reason why some couples then just have the joint accounts and also personal accounts, so that they can have that discretion as to what else they want to use their money for. And that's obviously something that you have to agree between yourselves. Okay, now I guess we already know that with separate individual accounts, you have the advantage of your autonomy. having the separate accounts means you're running your finances personally, whether it's the income or the outgoings there. You've got flexibility on what you want to do in terms of, if you want to make investments, or even if you approach your finances differently, there is that flexibility and privacy. And I think also you would imagine that the cons of individual accounts would obviously be the opposite of what we have already discussed with the joint account, which is the fact that there isn't any transparency. And there's also risk, because if there's an emergency and one partner cannot access, the other person's account, then, you're actually left in limbo with that kind of situation. And sometimes you may not know whether some bills are being kept up to date if you have a separate arrangement going on. So I think in a way, joint accounts have their place, and joint accounts would be an encouragement if you are operating in unity, if you are operating in a household where you want to have full transparency and people want to grow together in how they manage their finances and help each other on that journey. Now, ultimately, like I said, the decision is up to the couple. The decision is down to what is best for you based on your financial situation and your preferences, but most importantly, what your values are. And these are some of the things that even before we get into a marriage or into a long-term relationships, we should now have a good understanding of how our other half, or how our partner manages and views their money, and what their actual perception is around how joint accounts should be operated or how money should be run. One of the things that I can also mention, which is very UK specific, it will be different in other countries, is the fact that some people ask, well, what happens if the bank goes bust, or what happens if things, go totally sour with just the actual bank account you have? As you would know, in the UK, we have something called the Financial Service Compensation Scheme. And that means that every bank account holder or every individual will be protected for up to £85,000. Okay, so that means that even in a joint account, that 85,000 protection is actually individual, which means that you actually have protection of up to £170,000, which I guess is a very generous threshold in the event that something goes wrong. So if you have a joint account, it doesn't mean that you only get one level of protection. You actually get both, as long as individuals you don't own other bank accounts with the same bank. So if you've got bank accounts with different banks, then that protection is also available with each institute. Okay, now there are a lot of other issues to cover when it comes to joint accounts, when it comes to how people run their property, and that's more legal aspects, which is to do with tenancy in common and all that kind of stuff. You need to obviously do your research around that, just to make sure that you have access to each other's funds in the event of emergencies or even unexpected death. Okay, these are the things in life we should plan for and understand. And I guess going forward, like I said, we won't give any rules around this, but couples just need to weigh the pros and cons of each aspect that we've discussed, and have open discussions of what works best for them, so that they can agree on what gives them the best outcome in their finances. I, for one, I'm a great believer in having the expenses pulled together and everybody knows exactly what's going in and out, but also having a certain level of autonomy in separate accounts, just so that you've got the freedom to do certain things that you would like to do, as long as the amounts are agreed. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you've got any extra contributions to make, please feel free to add them to the comments and we can engage, and hope you have a lovely day.